The Discipline Blueprint, How to Force Yourself to Take Action and Never Quit, is written and published by MindForge Audiobooks. Every person dreams of success. They dream of becoming healthier, wealthier, more confident, more productive, and more fulfilled. They set goals, make plans, promise themselves that this time will be different. Yet for most people, those goals remain exactly where they started, in their imagination. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity. They fail because they rely on something that was never designed to carry them all the way. Motivation. Motivation is powerful, but it is temporary. It comes and goes like the weather. Some days you feel inspired, other days you feel tired, distracted, and unmotivated. If your success depends on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. The people who achieve extraordinary results understand a different truth. They do not wait until they feel ready. They do not wait until conditions are perfect. They act anyway. That ability is called discipline. Discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement. It is the skill that transforms potential into reality, dreams into accomplishments, and ordinary people into exceptional ones. Throughout this audiobook, you will discover how to defeat procrastination, master self-control, build powerful habits, strengthen mental toughness, and become the type of person who follows through no matter what. Because the moment you stop depending on motivation and start developing discipline, your entire life begins to change. Chapter 1. Why Motivation Always Fails. Motivation is one of the most misunderstood forces in human behavior. Most people believe motivation is the key to success. They wait for it before starting a new habit, pursuing a goal, going to the gym, working on a business, or making an important change in their lives. They assume that successful people are constantly motivated and that extraordinary achievement is simply the result of feeling inspired more often than everyone else. But the truth is very different. Motivation is not reliable. It is emotional, temporary, and unpredictable. It rises and falls depending on your mood, energy level, environment, and circumstances. Some days you wake up feeling unstoppable. Other days you feel tired, distracted, overwhelmed, or discouraged. If your progress depends entirely on motivation, then your success will always be inconsistent because your emotions are inconsistent. Think about how many times you have felt highly motivated to improve your life. Perhaps you started a new exercise routine, promised yourself you would stop procrastinating, or committed to learning a new skill. In those first few days, everything felt easy. Your excitement was high, your energy was strong, you imagined all the benefits waiting for you in the future. Then something happened. Life became busy, stress increased, your enthusiasm faded. Suddenly, the same tasks that felt exciting became difficult. The motivation that once seemed powerful disappeared. This is where most people quit. They mistake the loss of motivation for a sign that they should stop. The problem is that motivation was never designed to carry you all the way to the finish line. Motivation is excellent for getting started, but it is terrible at helping you stay consistent. It creates excitement, but excitement is not enough to build a successful life. Success requires repetition. It requires showing up again and again, even when you do not feel like it. The people who achieve remarkable things are not necessarily more motivated than everyone else. They have simply learned not to depend on motivation. One of the biggest reasons motivation fails is because it creates emotional dependence. When people rely on motivation, they begin believing they need to feel a certain way before they can act. They tell themselves they will start tomorrow when they feel more energized. They will work harder when they feel more inspired. They will chase their goals when they feel more confident. Unfortunately, this mindset creates a dangerous cycle. Action becomes dependent on emotion. When emotions are positive, progress happens. When emotions are negative, progress stops. As a result, life becomes controlled by feelings rather than choices. Self-discipline operates differently. Discipline does not ask how you feel before taking action. Discipline understands that feelings change constantly, but commitments remain. A disciplined person may not always feel motivated, but they act anyway. They understand that emotions are temporary, while goals require consistency. They do not wait for the perfect mood. They focus on the next action. This is why discipline is far more powerful than motivation. Motivation depends on circumstances. Discipline depends on decisions. Many people remain stuck because they spend years waiting to feel ready. They believe confidence must come before action. They believe certainty must come before commitment. They believe courage must come before movement. In reality, the opposite is often true. Confidence grows after action. Certainty develops through experience. Courage emerges when you move forward despite fear. Waiting to feel ready often becomes a form of procrastination disguised as preparation. The perfect moment never arrives. There will always be reasons to wait. There will always be obstacles, distractions, and uncertainties. The people who succeed understand this. They stop waiting and start moving. One of the most important lessons you can learn is that action often creates motivation, not the other way around. Most people believe they need motivation first and action second. However, psychology suggests that action frequently comes first. Once you begin moving, your brain starts generating momentum. Progress creates energy. Accomplishment creates confidence. Small victories create motivation. This explains why the hardest part of any task is usually getting started. Once you begin, continuing often becomes easier. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. Imagine pushing a heavy object. At first, it requires significant effort. The object barely moves. But once momentum builds, keeping it moving becomes much easier. Human behavior follows a similar pattern. Taking the first step often feels difficult. The second step feels easier. The third step feels easier still. Over time, progress develops its own energy. This is why successful people focus on action rather than feelings. They understand that momentum is created through movement. Building consistency without inspiration requires a shift in mindset. Instead of asking yourself whether you feel motivated, ask yourself whether the action needs to be done. Instead of focusing on emotions, focus on commitments. The goal is not to feel inspired every day. The goal is to become someone who follows through regardless of emotional state. This shift changes everything. It removes the pressure of needing perfect conditions. It allows progress to continue even during difficult periods. Consistency is where real transformation occurs. A single workout will not change your body. A single day of studying will not make you an expert. A single productive day will not create success. Transformation occurs through repeated effort over time. The ability to stay consistent matters far more than the ability to become excited. Motivation may help you begin, but discipline ensures you continue. And continuation is what creates results. This is why discipline consistently outperforms motivation. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is sustainable. Motivation depends on feelings. Discipline depends on choices. Motivation appears when conditions are favorable. Discipline remains when conditions are difficult. Motivation may help you start. Discipline helps you finish. When you look at highly successful people, it is tempting to assume they possess extraordinary motivation. In reality, what often separates them from everyone else is their willingness to act when they do not feel like it. They work when they are tired. They practice when they are uninspired. They stay committed when progress is slow. Their success is not built on constant excitement. It is built on consistent action. The moment you stop expecting motivation to solve your problems, you gain a tremendous advantage. You stop waiting for inspiration. You stop making excuses. You stop allowing emotions to determine your future. Instead, you develop the habit of taking action regardless of how you feel. And that habit becomes a source of freedom. Ultimately, motivation is a visitor. It comes and goes. Discipline is a companion. It stays with you through good days and bad days, through excitement and boredom, through confidence and doubt. If you want lasting success, stop chasing motivation and start building discipline, because the people who accomplish extraordinary things are not the ones who feel motivated every day. They are the ones who keep going long after motivation has disappeared. Chapter 2. The War. Between your present self and future self. Every day, whether you realize it or not, a silent battle is taking place inside your mind. It is not a battle between you and the outside world. It is not a battle between you and other people. It is a battle between two versions of yourself, your present self and your future self. Your present self wants comfort. It wants pleasure. It wants convenience. It wants immediate rewards. Your future self wants growth. It wants achievement. It wants success. It wants the rewards that come from patience, discipline, and long-term thinking. Almost every important decision in life is shaped by this conflict. The decision to exercise or stay on the couch. The decision to save money or spend it immediately. The decision to work on your goals or scroll endlessly through social media. The decision to study or procrastinate. The decision to endure temporary discomfort. Seek immediate comfort. These choices may seem small, but they determine the direction of your life. The challenge is that the human brain is naturally attracted to instant gratification. Immediate rewards feel real. They can be seen, touched, experienced. Long-term rewards, on the other hand, often feel distant and abstract. The benefits of discipline exist in the future. The benefits of comfort exist right now. As a result, many people repeatedly choose what feels good in the moment rather than what serves them in the long run. This tendency is deeply rooted in psychology. For most of human history, survival depended on taking advantage of immediate opportunities. Food available today was more valuable than food that might appear tomorrow. Safety available now was more important than future possibilities. The brain evolved to prioritize immediate rewards because doing so increased the chances of survival. While this instinct helped our ancestors survive, it creates some challenges in the modern world. Today, success often requires delayed gratification, the ability to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term gain, the ability to endure temporary discomfort in exchange for future rewards, the ability to think beyond the present moment. Unfortunately, many people never develop this skill. They become trapped in a cycle of immediate gratification. They choose entertainment over education, comfort over growth, convenience over discipline, pleasure over progress. And while these decisions may provide temporary satisfaction, they often create long-term frustration. This is where self-sabotage begins. Self-sabotage is one of the most confusing human behaviors because people often work against their own interests. They say they want success, yet avoid the actions that create success. They say they want confidence, yet refuse to face challenges. They say they want better health, yet continue destructive habits. From the outside, this behavior appears irrational, but from a psychological perspective, it makes sense. The brain is designed to avoid discomfort. Growth requires discomfort. Therefore, the brain often resists growth. The moment a challenge appears, the mind searches for escape routes. Excuses emerge. Procrastination appears. Distractions become attractive. Suddenly, everything seems more appealing than the task that needs to be done. This is not because you are lazy. It is because your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort. The problem is that comfort and growth rarely exist in the same place. Everything you want lies on the other side of discomfort. Confidence comes from facing challenges. Success comes from sustained effort. Strength comes from resistance. Discipline comes from doing difficult things repeatedly. Yet many people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort altogether. They choose the easier path, the safer path, the more comfortable path. Then they wonder why progress remains slow. The answer is simple. Growth demands discomfort. There is no way around it. The people who achieve extraordinary results are not people who enjoy discomfort more than everyone else. They simply understand its value. They recognize that temporary discomfort creates long-term rewards. This understanding changes everything. Instead of seeing discomfort as something negative, they begin viewing it as evidence of growth. Every difficult workout becomes an investment. Every focused work session becomes an investment. Every moment of discipline becomes an investment. And investments create future rewards. This brings us to one of the most powerful concepts in personal development: delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is the ability to resist an immediate reward in favor of a larger reward later. At first glance, this seems simple, but it may be one of the most important skills a person can develop. Life constantly presents opportunities to choose between now and later. Spend now or invest for the future. Relax now or build a skill. Avoid discomfort now or achieve something meaningful later. The people who consistently choose later often create remarkable lives. Not because they are smarter, not because they are more talented, but because they understand the power of patience. Success is often less about what you gain and more about what you are willing to delay. The disciplined person understands this. They are willing to sacrifice temporary pleasure for long-term fulfillment. They are willing to endure short-term effort for future freedom. They understand that every meaningful achievement requires patience. One of the most effective ways to strengthen discipline is through future self-thinking. Most people make decisions based on what their present self wants. Very few people regularly consider what their future self needs. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. What advice would that version of you give? What habits would they encourage? What mistakes would they warn against? What actions would they thank you for taking today? Future self-thinking changes decision-making because it creates perspective. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing right now?" you begin asking, "What will benefit me in the future?" This simple shift can transform behavior. When you view decisions through the eyes of your future self, discipline becomes easier. You begin recognizing that today's choices are creating tomorrow's reality. Every habit becomes significant. Every action matters. Every decision carries consequences. The future is not something that suddenly arrives. It is something you create, one decision at a time. Building long-term awareness requires stepping back from immediate emotions. Many poor decisions occur because people become trapped in the present moment. They focus only on how they feel right now. They ignore future consequences. They prioritize temporary comfort over lasting fulfillment. Long-term awareness changes this pattern. It teaches you to think beyond the moment, to consider outcomes rather than impulses, to evaluate decisions based on where they lead rather than how they feel. This perspective creates wisdom, because wisdom is often the ability to see beyond immediate gratification, the ability to recognize that today's discomfort may become tomorrow's advantage, and today's comfort may become tomorrow's regret. Ultimately, discipline is about winning internal battles. Every day presents choices, comfort or growth, excuses or responsibility, distraction or focus, immediate pleasure or long-term success. These battles are often invisible to other people. No one sees the moment you choose to work when you would rather quit. No one sees the moment you resist temptation. No one sees the moment you push through resistance. Yet these moments determine your future. Life is shaped by thousands of small internal victories. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you become stronger. Each time you choose discipline over impulse, you become more resilient. Each time you choose your future over your present desires, you move closer to the life you want. The battle between your present self and future self will never completely disappear. It is part of being human, but you can become better at winning it. You can strengthen your awareness, improve your discipline, develop greater patience, and learn to think beyond immediate gratification. Because the quality of your future depends on the choices you make today. Your future self is being created right now, with every decision, every habit, every action. The question is simple. Will you continue serving the comfort of your present self, or will you start building the life your future self deserves? The answer to that question will determine far more than your next decision. It will determine the direction of your entire life. Chapter 3. Destroy procrastination at the source. Procrastination is one of the most frustrating and misunderstood obstacles to success. Nearly everyone has experienced it. You know exactly what needs to be done, yet you delay. You promise yourself you will start tomorrow, later today, next week, or when you feel more motivated. The task remains unfinished, the goal remains distant, and the guilt continues to grow. Many people believe procrastination is a time management problem. They assume they procrastinate because they are lazy, unorganized, or lacking discipline. But procrastination is rarely about time. It is almost always about emotion. At its core, procrastination is the act of avoiding discomfort. When people delay an important task, they are not actually avoiding the task itself. They are avoiding the emotions associated with the task. They may be avoiding fear, uncertainty, frustration, boredom, self-doubt, or the possibility of failure. The task becomes emotionally uncomfortable, so the mind searches for something easier and more pleasant. Suddenly, checking social media feels important. Cleaning the house feels urgent. Watching another video feels necessary. The brain finds a temporary escape from discomfort, and procrastination wins another battle. One of the biggest causes of procrastination is fear. Fear often disguises itself so effectively that people do not even recognize it. They tell themselves they are waiting for the right moment, gathering more information, or preparing more thoroughly. In reality, they are afraid. They are afraid of failing, afraid of looking foolish, afraid of being judged, afraid of discovering they are not as capable as they hoped. Fear convinces people that avoiding action is safer than taking action. Unfortunately, avoidance never solves fear. It only strengthens it. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool. The water looks cold. Your mind immediately begins creating reasons to wait. Maybe you should stretch first. Maybe you should check something on your phone. Maybe you should wait a few more minutes. The longer you stand there, the harder it becomes to jump. Fear grows through hesitation. Yet the moment you jump into the water, the fear begins to disappear. The same principle applies to nearly every challenge in life. Fear expands during avoidance and shrinks during action. Perfectionism is another major source of procrastination. Many people assume perfectionism is a positive quality because it appears connected to high standards. In reality, perfectionism often becomes a sophisticated form of fear. The perfectionist believes everything must be done perfectly before it can be done at all. They spend excessive amounts of time planning, preparing, researching, and worrying. They become trapped in endless cycles of improvement before ever taking meaningful action. The problem is that perfection does not exist. No project is ever perfect. No plan is ever flawless. No opportunity arrives with complete certainty. People who wait for perfect conditions often spend years waiting. Meanwhile, those who are willing to act imperfectly continue making progress. Success rarely belongs to the person with the perfect plan. It usually belongs to the person willing to start before everything is figured out. Behind perfectionism often lies another fear, the fear of judgment. If something is never finished, it can never be criticized. If a goal is never pursued, failure can never occur. If an idea remains hidden, rejection becomes impossible. The mind mistakenly believes avoidance provides protection, but avoidance comes with its own cost. The cost is unrealized potential. The cost is regret. The cost is becoming trapped in a life that never reaches its possibilities. The emotional roots of procrastination run deeper than most people realize. Human beings are naturally drawn toward immediate comfort and away from immediate discomfort. This tendency helped our ancestors survive. Conserving energy and avoiding unnecessary risks often increased the chances of survival. However, in modern life, this instinct can become a barrier to growth. Many of the actions that create success feel uncomfortable in the short term. Studying is harder than entertainment. Exercise is harder than sitting on the couch. Building a business is harder than doing nothing. Growth demands effort, and effort often creates discomfort. The disciplined individual understands this reality. They stop expecting important tasks to feel easy. They stop waiting for perfect emotional conditions. Instead, they accept discomfort as part of the process. This shift is incredibly powerful because it changes the relationship with resistance. Instead of viewing discomfort as a sign to stop, they begin viewing it as a sign that growth is occurring. One of the most valuable lessons you can learn is that you do not need to feel ready before you begin. In fact, many of the greatest opportunities in life arrive before you feel prepared. If you wait until you feel completely confident, completely knowledgeable, and completely certain, you will spend much of your life standing still. Growth happens through action, not preparation alone. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. Confidence is a result of action. Think about any skill you possess today. There was a time when you were inexperienced. There was a time when you felt uncertain. There was a time when you doubted yourself. The only reason those feelings eventually faded is because you acted anyway. Every expert was once a beginner. Every confident person was once uncertain. Every successful individual once faced the same fears that stop so many people from starting. Action is one of the most effective antidotes to fear. Fear thrives in imagination. Action forces you into reality. While the mind is busy imagining worst-case scenarios, reality is often far less frightening. The moment you begin taking action, you gather information. You learn. You adapt. You discover solutions. Progress replaces speculation. Knowledge replaces uncertainty. Confidence begins to grow. This is why taking even the smallest step can be transformative. You do not need to complete the entire project today. You do not need to solve every problem immediately. You simply need to begin. One page written, one phone call made, one workout completed, one application submitted. Small actions create momentum, and momentum creates motivation. Creating urgency is another powerful way to overcome procrastination. Many people procrastinate because they believe they have unlimited time. They assume they can always start tomorrow. The problem is that tomorrow often becomes next week, next month, or next year. Opportunities disappear. Goals remain unfinished. Potential remains unrealized. The most successful people develop a healthy sense of urgency. They understand that time is their most valuable resource. Once time passes, it can never be recovered. This awareness creates action. It encourages people to stop postponing important work and start treating today as valuable. Urgency does not mean rushing recklessly. It means recognizing that life rewards action more than intention. Ultimately, overcoming procrastination requires becoming a person who executes. Many people become professional planners, professional dreamers, professional researchers. They consume endless information, but rarely take meaningful action. Execution separates achievers from observers. Execution transforms ideas into reality. Execution creates results. The person who succeeds is not always the most talented. They are not always the smartest. Often, they are simply the person who consistently takes action. They show up, they begin, they continue, they finish. While others are waiting for motivation, confidence, or certainty, they are moving forward. Every goal you have ever wanted is waiting on the other side of action. Every skill you want to develop requires action. Every improvement you seek depends on action. The path forward is rarely complicated. It is simply uncomfortable. But discomfort is temporary. Regret can last a lifetime. The next time you catch yourself procrastinating, remember what is really happening. You are not avoiding the task. You are avoiding a feeling. And feelings are temporary. They do not have to control your decisions. Take the first step, then take another. Let action create momentum. Let momentum create confidence. And let confidence create the life you are capable of building. Because successful people are not those who never feel fear, doubt, or resistance. They are the people who have learned to act despite them. They have become executors, and that single habit changes everything. Chapter 4. Discipline is a skill, not a personality trait. One of the most damaging beliefs people carry is the idea that discipline is something you either have or you do not. Many people look at highly successful individuals and assume they were born different. They see someone who wakes up early, exercises consistently, follows through on commitments, and stays focused on long-term goals, and they conclude that person must possess a special personality trait. They believe discipline is something reserved for a lucky few. As a result, they excuse their own lack of consistency by telling themselves they simply are not naturally disciplined. This belief is not only inaccurate, it is dangerous. Because the moment you believe discipline is something people are born with, you stop trying to develop it yourself. The truth is far more empowering. Discipline is not a personality trait. It is a skill. And like every skill, it can be learned, practiced, strengthened, and improved over time. No one is born knowing how to play a musical instrument. No one is born knowing how to drive a car. No one is born knowing how to run a business. These abilities are developed through practice. Discipline works exactly the same way. The people who appear highly disciplined today were not necessarily born that way. They became disciplined through repeated choices. They built habits. They developed routines. They strengthened their ability to follow through. Over time, what once required effort became part of who they were. This is one of the most encouraging truths in personal development. If discipline were fixed, improvement would be impossible. But because discipline is a skill, anyone willing to practice can become better at it. Modern neuroscience supports this idea through a concept known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change, adapt, and reorganize itself based on experience. For many years, scientists believed the brain became largely fixed after childhood. Today, we know that the brain remains adaptable throughout life. Every thought you think, every habit you repeat, and every action you perform strengthens certain neural pathways inside your brain. The more often a pathway is used, the stronger it becomes. Imagine walking through a forest. The first time you walk a particular route, the path is difficult to see. Branches get in the way, the ground is uneven, progress feels slow. But if you walk the same path every day, something interesting happens. The trail becomes clearer. The route becomes easier. Eventually, it feels natural. The brain works in a similar way. Repeated behaviors create mental pathways. The more often you practice discipline, the easier discipline becomes. The more often you procrastinate, the easier procrastination becomes. The brain strengthens whatever it practices most frequently. This means every action is training your mind. Every decision matters. Every habit is shaping who you are becoming. This process is why repetition is so powerful. Many people focus entirely on outcomes. They want immediate results, immediate confidence, immediate success, immediate transformation. But transformation is usually the result of repetition, not intensity. The actions you repeat consistently shape your future far more than occasional bursts of effort. One workout does not create fitness. One productive day does not create success. One act of discipline does not change your life, but repeated actions do. Repetition builds identity, and identity drives behavior. Most people think identity creates habits. In reality, habits often create identity. Every time you exercise, you cast a vote for becoming a healthy person. Every time you study, you cast a vote for becoming a knowledgeable person. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you cast a vote for becoming a disciplined person. No single vote determines the outcome, but the accumulation of votes eventually shapes identity. This is why small daily wins matter so much. Many people overlook small victories because they seem insignificant. They believe success requires dramatic changes, massive breakthroughs, extraordinary effort. Yet lasting transformation is often built on small victories repeated consistently. Making your bed, completing a workout, reading a few pages, finishing an important task, waking up on time, keeping a promise to yourself. These actions may appear minor, but each one strengthens self-discipline. Each one reinforces a new identity. Each one provides evidence that you are becoming someone who follows through. Over time, these small wins create momentum, and momentum creates confidence. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to transform their lives overnight. They become inspired and attempt to change everything at once. They create ambitious schedules, set unrealistic goals, demand perfection from themselves. For a few days, they maintain the effort. Then exhaustion appears, motivation fades, old habits return, and discouragement follows. The problem was never effort. The problem was expecting discipline to develop instantly. Real discipline grows gradually. Just as physical strength develops through repeated training, mental strength develops through repeated practice. No one walks into a gym and lifts the heaviest weight on the first day. Strength is built progressively. Discipline works the same way. You begin with manageable challenges. You practice consistency. You strengthen your ability to follow through. And over time, your capacity grows. This gradual process is often overlooked because it lacks excitement. People love dramatic transformations, but lasting change is usually quiet. It happens through ordinary actions repeated consistently. The disciplined individual understands this. They focus less on dramatic effort and more on daily consistency. Training self-control is a critical part of this process. Self-control is the ability to choose long-term benefits over short-term desires. Every day presents opportunities to strengthen it. The temptation to procrastinate, the temptation to avoid discomfort, the temptation to choose convenience over growth. Each moment presents a choice, and every choice either strengthens or weakens discipline. The good news is that self-control becomes easier with practice. The more often you resist unnecessary temptations, the stronger your ability becomes. The more often you choose growth over comfort, the easier that choice becomes. Over time, discipline begins requiring less effort because it becomes part of your identity. This is where many people become confused. They look at disciplined individuals and assume discipline comes naturally to them. What they fail to see is the years of practice behind the behavior, the countless small choices, the repeated acts of self-control, the gradual strengthening of mental muscles. They see the result without seeing the process. Mental strength is built exactly the same way physical strength is built. One repetition at a time, one challenge at a time, one decision at a time. Every difficult choice strengthens your mind. Every commitment honored increases self-trust. Every obstacle overcome develops resilience. The process is slow, but it is powerful. Eventually, actions that once felt difficult begin feeling normal. Not because you have become superhuman, but because you have trained yourself. This is why discipline should be viewed like a muscle. A muscle becomes stronger through use, weaker through neglect. Discipline follows the same pattern. Use it consistently, and it grows stronger. Ignore it, and it weakens. The encouraging part is that no matter where you start, improvement is always possible. A weak muscle can become strong. A distracted mind can become focused. An inconsistent person can become disciplined. The key is practice, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. Consistency, not intensity. Ultimately, discipline is not something you are born with. It is something you build through repetition, through small daily wins, through self-control, through persistence. Every disciplined person you admire began as a beginner. Every mentally strong person once struggled. Every successful person once faced the same resistance you face today. The difference is that they continued practicing. And because they practiced, discipline became part of who they were. The same possibility exists for you. You do not need a different personality. You do not need extraordinary talent. You do not need perfect conditions. You simply need to start training, because discipline is not a gift. It is a skill. And every day you practice it, you become stronger than you were the day before. Chapter 5. Make discipline automatic. One of the biggest misconceptions about discipline is that disciplined people constantly force themselves to do difficult things. Many imagine that highly successful individuals spend every day battling temptation, relying on extraordinary willpower to stay productive and focused. From the outside, it appears as though they possess endless self-control. In reality, the most disciplined people often rely less on willpower than everyone else. They have learned something powerful. The secret to long-term discipline is not forcing yourself every day. The secret is making discipline automatic. Human beings are creatures of habit. Much of what you do each day is not the result of conscious decision-making. It is the result of patterns that have been repeated so many times they have become automatic. You brush your teeth without needing motivation. You follow familiar routes while driving. You perform countless daily actions without thinking about them. Habits allow the brain to conserve energy by automating behavior. This is important because willpower is limited. Every decision you make consumes mental energy. Every temptation you resist requires effort. Every choice demands attention. If discipline depended entirely on willpower, maintaining it would be exhausting. Fortunately, the brain has a better solution. It turns repeated behaviors into habits. The psychology of habit formation explains why some behaviors eventually feel effortless. When you repeat an action consistently, the brain begins recognizing patterns. It learns what behavior follows certain cues. Over time, the behavior becomes increasingly automatic. What once required conscious effort eventually becomes part of your routine. This is why people who exercise regularly often find it easier to continue exercising than people who are just starting. The behavior has become familiar. The habit has been strengthened through repetition. The same principle applies to studying, saving money, reading, waking up early, and virtually every productive behavior. The challenge is that habits work both ways. Good habits become automatic, but bad habits become automatic as well. Procrastination can become a habit. Distraction can become a habit. Negative thinking can become a habit. Every repeated behavior trains the brain in a particular direction. Because habits are so powerful, one of the smartest things you can do is design an environment that encourages success. Most people underestimate how much their environment influences their behavior. They assume discipline is entirely internal. They believe success depends only on mindset. While mindset matters, environment often plays an equally important role. Imagine placing a bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen counter and hiding unhealthy snacks in a difficult-to-reach cabinet. Which option are you more likely to choose? Now imagine leaving your phone beside you while trying to focus on important work. How much harder does concentration become? Environment shapes behavior more than most people realize. Successful people understand this principle. Instead of relying solely on self-control, they make productive behaviors easier and destructive behaviors harder. They create surroundings that support their goals. They remove unnecessary temptations. They reduce distractions. They design systems that make success more likely. This concept is known as reducing friction. Friction is anything that makes a behavior more difficult. The more friction attached to a habit, the less likely you are to perform it. Conversely, the easier a behavior becomes, the more likely it is to happen consistently. Consider exercise. If your workout clothes are already prepared the night before, beginning becomes easier. If you must search for equipment, choose clothing, and organize everything each morning, the friction increases. Small obstacles create opportunities for excuses. The same principle applies to productive work. If your workspace is organized and ready, beginning feels easier. If distractions are everywhere and your environment is chaotic, focus becomes more difficult. Disciplined people often appear extraordinary because they understand how to eliminate unnecessary friction. They simplify the process of taking action. They create conditions that make success convenient. At the same time, they increase friction around bad habits. If social media constantly distracts you, remove easy access. If unhealthy food creates problems, make it less available. If television consumes your evenings, create barriers between yourself and the habit. The goal is not to rely on constant self-control. The goal is to make good decisions easier and bad decisions harder. Another powerful strategy for making discipline automatic is creating non-negotiable routines. Many people decide what to do based on how they feel. If they feel motivated, they work hard. If they feel tired, they skip the task. If they feel inspired, they pursue their goals. If they do not, they wait. This approach creates inconsistency. Non-negotiable routines eliminate this problem. A routine removes debate. The decision has already been made. You do not ask whether you feel like brushing your teeth. You simply do it. The most disciplined people create routines that operate in the same way. They wake up at a specific time. They exercise at a specific time. They work on important goals at a specific time. They remove unnecessary decisions. The routine becomes automatic. This consistency creates tremendous power because success rarely comes from occasional effort. It comes from repeated action. One of the reasons routines work so well is that they reduce decision fatigue. Decision fatigue occurs when the quality of decisions declines after making too many choices. Every day, your brain makes thousands of decisions: what to wear, what to eat, what to focus on, what to prioritize. Each decision consumes mental energy. By the end of the day, many people feel mentally exhausted. This exhaustion often leads to poor choices. They procrastinate. Avoid important work. Choose comfort over growth. Not because they are weak, but because their decision-making resources have been depleted. Routines solve this problem by reducing the number of decisions required. When important behaviors become automatic, mental energy is preserved for more meaningful challenges. This is one reason many high performers follow consistent daily schedules. They understand that reducing decisions improves performance. Another important distinction is the difference between goals and systems. Most people are obsessed with goals. They want to lose weight, earn more money, build a business, write a book, achieve success. Goals are valuable because they provide direction. However, goals alone are not enough. A goal tells you where you want to go. A system determines whether you get there. Imagine two people with the same goal of becoming physically fit. One person focuses only on the outcome. The other creates a daily system of exercise, healthy eating, and recovery. Who is more likely to succeed? The person with the system. Because systems create consistency. Goals create direction. Many people fail, not because their goals are weak, but because their systems are absent. Disciplined individuals understand this. They focus less on outcomes and more on processes. They build routines that naturally produce results. Over time, these systems create extraordinary progress. This is how success becomes automatic. Not through constant motivation, not through endless willpower, but through carefully designed habits and systems. The ultimate goal of discipline is not to make life harder. It is to make success easier. When productive behaviors become automatic, growth no longer requires constant effort. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop depending on motivation. You stop waiting for inspiration. Instead, you trust the system. You follow the routine. You execute the process, day after day, week after week, month after month. Eventually, the results begin to compound. What once felt difficult becomes normal. What once required effort becomes habit. What once seemed impossible becomes part of your identity. This is how disciplined people create extraordinary lives. They do not rely on occasional bursts of motivation. They build environments that support success, reduce friction, create routines, eliminate unnecessary decisions, trust systems instead of emotions, and slowly but surely they place success on autopilot. Because the highest level of discipline is not forcing yourself to do the right thing. It is creating a life where doing the right thing becomes automatic. Chapter 6. Do hard things on purpose. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They seek convenience. They seek certainty. They seek the easiest path available. Every day, countless decisions are influenced by a simple question: what feels most comfortable right now? The problem is that comfort and growth rarely exist in the same place. Everything meaningful in life requires some form of discomfort. Building a strong body requires physical discomfort. Building a successful career requires effort and sacrifice. Building confidence requires facing fear. Building discipline requires resisting temptation. Building meaningful relationships requires vulnerability. Growth has always demanded a price, and that price is discomfort. Unfortunately, modern life has made comfort more accessible than ever before. Food can be delivered to your door. Entertainment is available instantly. Answers are available within seconds. Discomfort can often be avoided with the touch of a button. While convenience has many benefits, it also creates a hidden problem. Many people become addicted to comfort. They begin organizing their lives around avoiding difficulty, avoiding effort, avoiding uncertainty, avoiding challenges. As a result, they remain trapped inside their comfort zones. The comfort zone is a psychological space where everything feels familiar, predictable, and safe. Within this zone, anxiety remains low, risk remains low, discomfort remains low. At first glance, this seems desirable. Who would not want to feel comfortable? The problem is that comfort zones are designed for maintenance, not growth. Nothing truly changes inside a comfort zone. Skills do not expand. Confidence does not increase. Potential does not develop. Life becomes predictable, but it also becomes limited. Imagine a person who dreams of starting a business but never takes the first step because they fear failure. Imagine someone who wants to become healthier but avoids exercise because it feels difficult. Imagine someone who wants deeper relationships but avoids meaningful conversations because they feel uncomfortable. In every case, the comfort zone provides temporary safety, but it also prevents growth. The irony is that what feels safe in the short term often becomes painful in the long term. The discomfort of staying the same eventually becomes greater than the discomfort of changing. Regret begins to appear. Frustration grows. Potential remains unrealized. This is why growth requires discomfort. Not because discomfort is inherently good, but because growth demands experiences that stretch your current limits. Every meaningful improvement requires entering unfamiliar territory. Learning a new skill feels uncomfortable. Taking responsibility feels uncomfortable. Facing fears feels uncomfortable. Trying again after failure feels uncomfortable. Yet these experiences are precisely what create transformation. Think about physical exercise. When muscles are challenged, small tears occur within the muscle fibers. The body repairs those fibers and makes them stronger. Without resistance, growth does not occur. Mental growth works similarly. The mind becomes stronger through challenge. Without challenge, mental strength remains undeveloped. This is why mentally tough people are not born differently. They are built through repeated exposure to difficulty. Mental toughness is often misunderstood. Many people imagine mentally tough individuals never experience fear, doubt, or discomfort. The truth is much simpler. Mental toughness is the ability to continue despite fear, continue despite doubt, continue despite discomfort. It is not about eliminating difficult emotions. It is about refusing to be controlled by them. Every challenge presents an opportunity to develop this quality. Every difficult conversation, every demanding project, every setback, every obstacle, each one provides training for the mind. Most people avoid these opportunities. Mentally strong individuals embrace them, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand what suffering can teach them. One of the most powerful ways to build mental toughness is through voluntary hardship. Voluntary hardship means intentionally choosing activities that challenge you, not because you have to, but because you know they will make you stronger. Examples exist everywhere: waking up earlier than necessary, exercising consistently, taking cold showers, learning difficult skills, having uncomfortable conversations, speaking in public, practicing self-discipline when no one is watching. These experiences create controlled discomfort, and controlled discomfort teaches an important lesson. You are capable of more than you think. Every time you voluntarily choose difficulty, you strengthen your relationship with discomfort. You stop viewing discomfort as an enemy. You begin viewing it as a teacher. This perspective changes everything. Most people panic when discomfort appears. They immediately search for escape. Mentally strong individuals recognize discomfort as part of growth. They understand that temporary struggle often produces long-term rewards. Over time, this creates resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover from challenges and continue moving forward. Life will always include setbacks. Failure is unavoidable. Disappointment is inevitable. Loss, uncertainty, and adversity are part of the human experience. No amount of planning can eliminate them completely. The question is not whether challenges will appear. The question is how you will respond when they do. Resilient people understand that adversity is not the end of the story. They may stumble, they may struggle, they may experience pain, but they continue, again and again. This ability is not built during easy times. It is built during difficult ones. Every challenge survived becomes evidence of strength. Every obstacle overcome increases confidence. Every setback conquered reinforces resilience. The mind gradually learns a powerful lesson. I can handle difficult things. That belief becomes one of the greatest sources of confidence a person can possess. Another critical benefit of doing hard things is the development of emotional endurance. Physical endurance allows you to continue despite physical fatigue. Emotional endurance allows you to continue despite emotional discomfort. Many goals fail because people underestimate the emotional challenges involved. They expect progress to feel exciting all the time. They expect motivation to remain high. They expect confidence to remain constant. Reality is different. Progress often feels boring. Success often requires repetition. Growth frequently involves frustration. The ability to continue during these emotional lows separates achievers from dreamers. Emotional endurance means staying committed when excitement disappears, working when you do not feel inspired, practicing when you do not feel motivated, continuing when progress feels slow. This ability cannot be purchased. It must be developed, and it develops through experience. Every time you continue despite discomfort, emotional endurance grows stronger. Eventually, something remarkable begins to happen. The discomfort that once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Challenges that once seemed intimidating become familiar. Difficult situations no longer create the same level of resistance. You begin adapting, growing, strengthening. This is how people become comfortable with discomfort, not because discomfort disappears, but because their relationship with it changes. At first, discomfort feels like a warning sign. Later, it becomes a growth signal. You begin recognizing that every meaningful achievement contains discomfort somewhere along the journey. The discomfort of discipline, the discomfort of learning, the discomfort of failure, the discomfort of persistence. These experiences stop feeling threatening. They begin feeling necessary. This mindset creates extraordinary freedom. Because once you stop fearing discomfort, many of the barriers that limit other people disappear. Fear loses power. Excuses lose power. Procrastination loses power. You become willing to do what others avoid, and that willingness creates opportunities most people never experience. Ultimately, doing hard things on purpose is not about making life miserable. It is about making yourself stronger. Every challenge accepted increases resilience. Every discomfort embraced builds confidence. Every difficult choice strengthens character. The goal is not suffering. The goal is growth, because growth lives beyond comfort. Potential lives beyond comfort. Confidence lives beyond comfort. Success lives beyond comfort. The life you want is rarely found inside the boundaries of what feels easy and familiar. It exists on the other side of effort, the other side of fear, the other side of discomfort. And every time you choose to do something difficult on purpose, you take another step toward becoming the strongest version of yourself. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Chapter 7. Eliminate excuses. Forever. Excuses are one of the greatest obstacles standing between people and the lives they want to create. They are often small, subtle, and seemingly harmless. In fact, many excuses sound completely reasonable. I don't have enough time. I'm too tired. I'll start next week. The conditions aren't right. I need more information first. I'll do it when life calms down. These statements feel logical, they feel justified, they feel true. But beneath the surface, excuses often serve a single purpose: protecting us from discomfort. The psychology of excuses is fascinating because most people do not realize they are making them. They believe they are simply explaining their circumstances. In reality, they are often creating stories that allow them to avoid difficult actions. Excuses provide temporary emotional relief. They help people avoid guilt, fear, uncertainty, and responsibility. For a moment, the excuse feels comforting. It allows a person to postpone action without feeling completely at fault. The problem is that excuses come with a hidden cost. Every excuse protects you from discomfort today while stealing opportunities from your future. An excuse may help you avoid a workout, but it also prevents you from becoming healthier. An excuse may help you avoid starting a business, but it also prevents you from creating financial freedom. An excuse may help you avoid a difficult conversation, but it also prevents a relationship from improving. Excuses feel harmless because their consequences are delayed. You do not immediately see the opportunities you lost. You do not immediately notice the growth that never occurred. But over months and years, excuses accumulate, and eventually, they create a life filled with frustration, regret, and unrealized potential. One of the most important distinctions in personal growth is the difference between a victim mindset and an ownership mindset. People with a victim mindset believe their circumstances control their lives. They constantly focus on factors outside their control. They blame the economy, their upbringing, bad luck, difficult people, unfair situations, or unfortunate timing. They believe success belongs to people with better opportunities. Victim thinking feels attractive because it removes responsibility. If your circumstances are entirely responsible for your life, then you are not required to change anything. You are not required to improve. You are not required to take difficult action. You are not required to face uncomfortable truths. The problem is that victim thinking also removes power. The moment you give responsibility to external circumstances, you give away your ability to influence outcomes. Ownership thinking works differently. Ownership does not mean pretending life is fair. It does not mean denying obstacles. It does not mean ignoring genuine difficulties. Ownership simply means focusing on what you can control. An ownership-minded person may face the same challenges as everyone else, but they ask a different question. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can I do about it?" That question changes everything, because it shifts attention away from problems and toward solutions. Personal responsibility is one of the most powerful forces in human development. The moment you take responsibility for your actions, decisions, habits, and results, your life begins to change. Responsibility is often misunderstood. Many people view responsibility as a burden. In reality, responsibility is freedom. If your actions influence your future, then your future can improve. If your habits matter, then new habits can create new outcomes. If your choices have power, then your life can change. Responsibility is not punishment. It is empowerment. The most successful people understand this principle deeply. They stop searching for someone to blame. They stop waiting for rescue. They stop hoping circumstances will magically improve. Instead, they focus on what they can do today. This mindset creates progress. Excuses often survive because of self-deception. Human beings are remarkably skilled at convincing themselves of things that are not entirely true. The mind naturally protects the ego. It wants to preserve self-esteem. It wants to avoid uncomfortable realities. As a result, people often rationalize their behavior. Rationalization is the process of creating logical explanations for emotional decisions. A person procrastinates and says they are waiting for the right time. A person avoids risk and says they are being cautious. A person quits too early and says the goal was not important anyway. The explanation sounds reasonable, but beneath the explanation lies fear, discomfort, or avoidance. This is why self-awareness is so important. You must learn to recognize when you are telling yourself stories that keep you stuck. Ask yourself difficult questions. Am I truly unable to act, or am I uncomfortable acting? Am I facing a genuine obstacle, or am I creating an excuse? Am I looking for solutions, or am I looking for justification? These questions expose the truth, and truth creates change. One of the most effective ways to eliminate excuses is by developing solution-focused thinking. Most people become experts at identifying problems. They can list every obstacle, every difficulty, every limitation, and every challenge. Very few become experts at identifying solutions. When something goes wrong, their attention immediately moves toward what is missing rather than what is possible. Solution-focused people think differently. When a challenge appears, they immediately begin asking better questions. How can this be solved? What resources are available? Who can help? What is the next step? What can I do right now? Notice the difference. Problem-focused thinking creates helplessness. Solution-focused thinking creates action. Every challenge contains both problems and possibilities. The direction of your attention determines what you see. This is one reason successful people often appear optimistic. It is not because they ignore difficulties. It is because they spend more time searching for solutions than dwelling on obstacles. Another powerful tool for eliminating excuses is accountability. Human beings perform differently when accountability exists. When no one is watching, it becomes easier to break promises, easier to procrastinate, easier to justify poor decisions. Accountability creates awareness. It reminds you that your actions matter. This accountability can come from many sources: a mentor, a coach, a friend, a business partner, a support group, even a written commitment. The source matters less than the principle. The principle is simple: create systems that make it harder to hide from yourself. Some of the most disciplined people in the world rely heavily on accountability, not because they are weak, but because they understand human nature. They know excuses grow strongest in isolation. Accountability brings them into the light. Ultimately, eliminating excuses requires taking complete ownership of results. This does not mean blaming yourself for everything. Life contains countless factors beyond your control. Unexpected events happen. Challenges appear. Circumstances change, but regardless of what happens, you always control your response, and your response determines your future. The moment you stop blaming and start taking ownership, something remarkable happens. Your energy returns. Your focus sharpens. Your confidence grows, because you realize you are no longer waiting for circumstances to improve. You are creating improvement yourself. Excuses disappear when ownership increases. The more responsibility you accept, the fewer excuses you need. The more solutions you seek, the less time you spend complaining. The more action you take, the less power fear holds over you. At the end of the day, successful people are not those with perfect circumstances. They are people who refuse to let circumstances become excuses. They take responsibility, they adapt, they solve problems, they move forward again and again. And that willingness to take ownership is one of the most important forms of discipline you will ever develop. Because the life you want begins the moment you stop making excuses for why it has not happened yet and start taking responsibility for making it happen. Chapter 8. Train your mind to follow through. One of the greatest differences between successful people and unsuccessful people is not intelligence, talent, education, or opportunity. It is the ability to follow through. Every day, millions of people make promises to themselves. They promise to wake up earlier. They promise to exercise. They promise to save money. They promise to work on their goals. They promise to stop procrastinating. They promise to change their lives. Yet most of those promises are eventually broken. Not because people lack good intentions, not because they lack dreams, but because they have not developed the habit of following through. This creates a hidden problem that many people never recognize. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken trust in yourself. Imagine having a friend who constantly makes promises but never keeps them. At first, you might believe them. But after enough broken commitments, trust begins to disappear. Eventually, their words lose credibility. You stop expecting them to follow through. The same thing happens internally. Every promise you break sends a message to your mind. It says, my commitments do not matter. It says, I cannot be relied upon. It says, my words carry no weight. Over time, this damages one of the most important foundations of success: self-trust. Self-trust is the belief that you will do what you say you are going to do. It is confidence in your own reliability. Many people struggle with discipline because they do not trust themselves anymore. They have spent years setting goals and abandoning them, starting projects and quitting, making commitments and breaking them. As a result, even when they set meaningful goals, a part of them remains skeptical. Deep down, they are not fully convinced they will follow through. This creates hesitation, doubt, insecurity, and inconsistency. The good news is that self-trust can be rebuilt, but it cannot be rebuilt through positive thinking alone. It must be rebuilt through action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, trust increases. Every time you follow through, credibility grows. Every time you do what you said you would do, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. The process is similar to building trust with another person. Trust is not created through words. It is created through repeated evidence. The same principle applies internally. You become trustworthy by acting in trustworthy ways. This is why small commitments matter so much. Many people make the mistake of creating enormous goals they cannot consistently maintain. They promise themselves they will completely transform their lives overnight. They create unrealistic schedules, set impossible expectations, demand perfection. Then they fail to maintain the standard and become discouraged. A better approach is to start small. Make promises you can keep, then keep them consistently. Read a few pages, exercise for a short period. Complete one important task. Wake up when you plan to wake up. The size of the commitment matters less than your ability to follow through. Every completed commitment becomes evidence. Evidence creates trust, and trust creates confidence. This process directly influences identity. Identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are. Many people see themselves as inconsistent because they have accumulated years of evidence supporting that belief. They identify as procrastinators, quitters, people who struggle with discipline, people who never finish what they start. The challenge is that identity influences behavior. If you believe you are inconsistent, inconsistency feels natural. If you believe you never finish things, quitting becomes easier. The mind constantly seeks alignment between behavior and identity. This is why consistency is so powerful. Every time you follow through, you cast a vote for a new identity. You become someone who keeps promises, someone who stays committed, someone who follows through. The transformation may feel small at first, but identity shifts gradually. And once identity changes, behavior becomes easier to maintain. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is finishing what you start. The modern world is filled with unfinished projects, unfinished goals, unfinished plans. People become excited about new opportunities, but lose interest when difficulty appears. They begin enthusiastically and quit when the novelty disappears. This pattern creates frustration because unfinished work produces very few rewards. Starting is important, but finishing is what creates results. Finishing develops confidence. Finishing develops discipline. Finishing develops credibility. Every completed project reinforces the belief that you are capable of following through. This does not mean you must continue every pursuit forever. Sometimes changing direction is wise. Sometimes priorities evolve. But many people quit not because the goal is wrong. They quit because the process becomes uncomfortable. Learning to push through that discomfort creates tremendous growth. One of the biggest obstacles to following through is distraction. Modern life is designed to pull your attention in countless directions. Notifications compete for your focus. Social media competes for your attention. Entertainment competes for your time. Every distraction creates an opportunity to abandon what matters most. Following through requires protecting your attention. It requires deciding what deserves your focus and what does not. Highly dependable people understand this principle. They recognize that every distraction carries a cost. A few minutes here, a few minutes there. Eventually, those interruptions become lost opportunities, lost momentum, lost progress. Managing distractions is not about eliminating every interruption. It is about becoming intentional, creating boundaries, protecting priorities, making sure important goals receive consistent attention. This becomes especially important during difficult periods. Anyone can stay committed when everything is going well. The real challenge appears when progress slows, when motivation disappears, when life becomes stressful, when setbacks occur. These are the moments that reveal character. Many people mistake temporary difficulty for failure. They assume that struggle means something is wrong. In reality, struggle is often part of the process. Every meaningful goal includes difficult seasons. Every journey includes obstacles. Every long-term commitment eventually becomes challenging. The individuals who succeed are not those who avoid difficult periods. They are those who remain committed during them. They understand that consistency matters most when enthusiasm fades. When excitement disappears, discipline takes over. When motivation weakens, commitment remains. This ability separates achievers from dreamers. Dreamers work when they feel inspired. Disciplined people work whether they feel inspired or not. Over time, this consistency creates something incredibly valuable: dependability. Dependability is one of the most respected qualities a person can possess. People trust dependable individuals. They rely on them. They respect them. Dependability creates opportunities because others know they can count on you. But perhaps the greatest benefit is internal. When you become dependable to yourself, everything changes. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You stop questioning your commitment. You stop wondering whether you will quit. Because your actions have already answered those questions. You have built a history of reliability, a record of consistency, a reputation with yourself, and that reputation creates confidence. Ultimately, discipline is not about being perfect. It is about becoming reliable, reliable in your habits, reliable in your commitments, reliable in your actions. The goal is not to never struggle. The goal is to continue despite the struggle, to keep your promises, to protect your focus, to finish what you start, to stay committed when it becomes difficult. Every time you follow through, you strengthen your character. Every time you honor a commitment, you strengthen self-trust. Every time you continue when quitting would be easier, you strengthen discipline. And over time, these small acts of consistency transform who you are. Because success is not built by people who occasionally perform at their best. It is built by people who can be trusted to show up repeatedly, people who follow through, people who remain committed, people who do what they said they would do, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. That is the mindset of a dependable person. And that mindset has the power to change every area of your life. Chapter 9. Discipline creates confidence. Confidence is one of the most desired qualities in the world. People want to feel more confident in their careers, relationships, decisions, and daily lives. They want to speak with certainty, pursue opportunities without hesitation, and trust themselves when facing challenges. Entire industries have been built around teaching confidence. Books, courses, seminars, and motivational speeches all promise to help people become more confident. Yet most people search for confidence in the wrong places. They believe confidence comes from positive thinking alone. They believe confidence comes from praise. They believe confidence comes from success. They believe confidence comes from convincing themselves they are capable. While these things may provide temporary boosts, true confidence is built differently. Real confidence is earned. It is not something you think your way into. It is something you act your way into. At its core, confidence is trust. Specifically, it is trust in yourself. It is the belief that you can handle challenges, keep commitments, and overcome obstacles. The question then becomes simple. Where does that trust come from? The answer is evidence. You trust people when they repeatedly prove they are trustworthy. You trust a friend who keeps promises. You trust a colleague who consistently follows through. You trust a leader who demonstrates reliability over time. Trust is built through repeated actions. The same principle applies internally. You trust yourself when you repeatedly prove you can rely on yourself. And that is exactly where discipline enters the picture. Discipline is one of the fastest ways to build confidence because it creates evidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you gather evidence. Every time you complete a difficult task, you gather evidence. Every time you show up despite resistance, you gather evidence. That evidence becomes confidence. Many people struggle with self-confidence because they have unintentionally trained themselves not to trust their own words. They constantly set goals and abandon them, make commitments and break them, promise themselves they will change, then fail to follow through. Over time, the mind notices this pattern. It begins to question every new commitment. When you tell yourself you are going to do something, a part of you responds, "Are you really?" This skepticism is not caused by a lack of potential. It is caused by a lack of evidence. The mind has learned not to trust your promises. Discipline changes that. Each act of follow-through rebuilds credibility. Each commitment honored strengthens trust. Each disciplined action sends a message: I can rely on myself. And that message becomes the foundation of confidence. This is why self-respect is closely connected to discipline. Self-respect is not created by wishing for it. It is not created by demanding it. It is created through behavior. The way you treat yourself influences how you feel about yourself. When you repeatedly ignore your goals, self-respect decreases. When you constantly betray your own commitments, self-respect weakens. When you avoid responsibility, self-respect suffers. But when you act with integrity, self-respect grows. When you do what you said you would do, even when it is difficult, you begin viewing yourself differently. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through, someone who can be trusted, someone who is capable of handling challenges. That perception creates confidence. Many people want confidence before taking action. They believe they must feel confident before starting, before speaking up, before applying for opportunities, before pursuing goals. But confidence rarely works that way. Action usually comes first. Confidence follows afterward. Think about learning any new skill. Whether it is driving a car, speaking in public, starting a business, or learning a language, confidence does not appear immediately. At first, uncertainty exists. Mistakes occur. Doubt appears. But with practice, something changes. Experience accumulates. Skills improve. Confidence grows. The confidence came from action, not the other way around. This process is powered by momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in personal development. When you consistently take action, progress begins to accumulate. Small victories create larger victories. Success creates confidence. Confidence encourages further action. More action creates additional success. A positive cycle begins. Unfortunately, the opposite is also true. Inaction creates doubt. Doubt reduces action. Reduced action limits results. Fewer results create even more doubt. A negative cycle develops. The key is understanding that momentum starts with movement, not perfection, not certainty, not motivation, movement. The first step often feels difficult. The second step feels easier. The third step feels easier still. Eventually, momentum carries you forward. Disciplined people understand this principle. They do not wait until confidence appears. They take action and allow confidence to develop naturally. One reason disciplined people trust themselves more than others is because they have built a history of reliability. Every completed task becomes proof. Every challenge overcome becomes proof. Every commitment honored becomes proof. Their confidence is not based on wishful thinking. It is based on experience. This is why disciplined individuals often appear calm under pressure. They know they have handled difficult situations before. They know they can rely on themselves. They trust their ability to respond effectively. That trust creates emotional stability. It creates resilience. It creates confidence. Another important aspect of confidence is internal validation. Many people spend their lives searching for approval from others. They want compliments, recognition, praise, acceptance. While external validation feels good, it is temporary. The problem is that confidence built on external approval is fragile. If someone criticizes you, confidence drops. If recognition disappears, confidence weakens. If approval is withdrawn, insecurity returns. Internal validation is different. Internal validation comes from knowing you are living according to your values. It comes from honoring your commitments. It comes from respecting yourself. Disciplined people develop strong internal validation because their confidence is based on behavior rather than opinions. They know what they have done. They know what they have overcome. They know what they are capable of. As a result, they depend less on external praise. Their confidence comes from within. This creates tremendous freedom because the opinions of others no longer determine self-worth. Confidence through consistency is one of the most reliable forms of confidence available. Anyone can feel confident after a victory. Anyone can feel confident when circumstances are favorable. The real test occurs during difficult periods, when progress slows, when obstacles appear, when motivation disappears. Consistency during these moments creates a deeper kind of confidence, a confidence rooted in character rather than circumstances. You begin realizing that your commitment is stronger than your emotions, that your discipline is stronger than your excuses, that your actions are more powerful than your fears. This realization changes how you see yourself, and how you see yourself influences everything. The image you hold of yourself acts like a blueprint. If you see yourself as unreliable, your behavior often reflects that belief. If you see yourself as weak, your actions often reflect that belief. If you see yourself as disciplined, capable, and resilient, your behavior begins aligning with that identity. This is why creating a winning self-image matters. A winning self-image is not arrogance. It is not pretending to be perfect. It is not believing you are superior to others. A winning self-image is simply the belief that you are capable of growth, capable of improvement, and capable of overcoming challenges. Discipline strengthens this image because it continuously provides supporting evidence. Every time you keep a promise, you strengthen the identity. Every time you overcome resistance, you strengthen the identity. Every time you choose action over excuses, you strengthen the identity. Eventually, confidence becomes natural. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Ultimately, confidence is not something you find, it is something you build. And the foundation of that confidence is discipline. Every disciplined action strengthens self-respect. Every disciplined action builds trust. Every disciplined action creates evidence. The more evidence you accumulate, the stronger your confidence becomes. So if you want greater confidence, stop searching for it. Start earning it. Keep your promises. Follow through on commitments. Do difficult things consistently. Respect your own word. Because confidence is not the reward for success. Confidence is often the result of discipline, and the disciplined person eventually develops something far more powerful than temporary motivation or external approval, an unshakable belief in themselves. Chapter 10. Become the person who never quits. Every successful person eventually reaches a moment when quitting seems easier than continuing, a moment when motivation disappears, a moment when progress slows, a moment when failure feels overwhelming, a moment when doubt becomes louder than confidence. These moments are unavoidable. No goal is immune to setbacks. No dream is free from obstacles. No journey unfolds exactly as planned. The difference between those who achieve extraordinary things and those who fall short is often surprisingly simple. One group quits, the other keeps going. Most people believe success belongs to the smartest, most talented, or most fortunate individuals. While talent and opportunity certainly matter, history repeatedly shows that persistence often matters more. The ability to continue when others stop creates a tremendous advantage, because life rewards consistency, not perfection, not occasional bursts of effort. Consistency. The person who keeps moving forward eventually travels farther than the person who repeatedly starts and stops. This is why becoming the person who never quits is one of the most valuable transformations you can make. The foundation of this transformation is identity-based discipline. Most people focus on outcomes. They want to lose weight, build a business, write a book, improve their finances, achieve success. While goals are important, goals alone rarely create lasting change. Identity creates lasting change. Instead of asking, "What do I want to achieve?" ask, "Who do I want to become?" Do you want to become someone who follows through, someone who remains committed, someone who keeps promises, someone who finishes what they start? When discipline becomes part of your identity, persistence becomes easier because you are no longer acting based solely on results. You are acting in alignment with who you believe you are. A disciplined person exercises because that is what disciplined people do. A committed person continues because that is what committed people do. A resilient person gets back up because that is what resilient people do. Identity creates consistency, and consistency creates results. One reason so many people quit is because they underestimate the importance of long-term persistence. Modern culture celebrates quick results, instant success, overnight transformations, rapid growth. People see the outcome but rarely see the years of effort behind it. They see the successful entrepreneur but not the countless failures. They see the accomplished athlete but not the years of training. They see the confident speaker but not the hundreds of nervous presentations. Success often appears sudden from the outside, but from the inside, it is usually the result of years of persistence. The ability to stay committed long enough for results to appear is one of the greatest competitive advantages you can develop. Most people quit too early, not because they are incapable, but because they become discouraged. They expect immediate progress. When progress takes longer than expected, they lose faith in the process. The reality is that many of life's rewards operate on delayed timelines. The effort comes first. The reward comes later, sometimes much later. This requires patience, trust, and persistence. The people who ultimately succeed are often not those who move fastest. They are those who stay committed longest. Of course, persistence becomes difficult when setbacks occur, and setbacks always occur. Failure is not a possibility. It is a certainty. At some point, things will go wrong, plans will fail, mistakes will happen, progress will slow, unexpected challenges will appear. Many people interpret these moments incorrectly. They see failure as evidence that they are not capable. They see setbacks as proof that they should quit. They view obstacles as signs they are moving in the wrong direction. Successful people think differently. They understand that failure is part of growth. Every skill requires mistakes. Every achievement includes setbacks. Every meaningful journey contains obstacles. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is often part of the process that creates success. This perspective changes everything. Instead of fearing failure, you begin learning from it. Instead of avoiding mistakes, you begin using them. Instead of quitting after setbacks, you adapt and continue. The most successful people are rarely those who avoid failure. They are those who recover from failure quickly. This ability is called resilience. Resilience is one of the defining characteristics of people who never quit. Resilience is not the absence of difficulty. It is the ability to continue despite difficulty. It is the ability to remain standing after life knocks you down. Pressure reveals resilience. Anyone can remain positive when life is easy. The true test occurs when circumstances become difficult, when plans collapse, when rejection appears, when effort goes unnoticed, when progress feels invisible. These are the moments that shape character. Every challenge asks a question. Will you continue? Resilient people answer yes. Not because continuing is easy, but because they understand that growth requires persistence. Over time, resilience becomes a source of confidence. You begin realizing that you can survive difficult situations. You can recover from setbacks. You can adapt. You can continue. That realization creates tremendous strength. Another important shift occurs when discipline stops being something you do and becomes a lifestyle. Many people view discipline as temporary. They become disciplined until they reach a goal, disciplined until they lose weight, disciplined until they save money, disciplined until they achieve a milestone. Then, they return to old habits. This approach creates temporary results. Lasting success requires something deeper. Discipline must become part of your lifestyle. A lifestyle is not something you force occasionally. It is how you live. When discipline becomes a lifestyle, consistency becomes natural. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop searching for motivation. You stop depending on emotional highs. Instead, disciplined behavior becomes your standard. It becomes your default. This is how extraordinary results are created, not through occasional effort, but through sustained commitment over years. The psychology of unstoppable people is remarkably simple. They are not fearless. They are not perfect. They are not immune to doubt. They simply refuse to let those experiences stop them. They feel fear and move forward. They experience setbacks and continue. They encounter obstacles and adapt. They understand that progress matters more than perfection. This mindset creates an enormous advantage because most people allow temporary emotions to determine permanent decisions. Unstoppable people do not. They understand that emotions change, circumstances change, difficulties pass, but commitment remains. The final reward of persistence is legacy. Most people think legacy is something reserved for famous individuals. In reality, everyone builds a legacy. Every habit contributes to it. Every decision contributes to it. Every action contributes to it. Your legacy is simply the impact created by your consistent behavior over time. The habits you practice today shape the person you become tomorrow. The person you become influences the lives you touch. The results you create influence the opportunities available to future generations. This is why consistency matters, not just for success, but for significance. A powerful legacy is rarely built through one extraordinary moment. It is built through thousands of ordinary moments repeated consistently. One disciplined decision, one promise kept, one obstacle overcome, one day at a time. Ultimately, becoming the person who never quits is not about being perfect. It is about becoming persistent. It is about deciding that your commitment is stronger than your excuses, that your purpose is stronger than your fear, that your discipline is stronger than your emotions. Because success does not belong to those who never struggle. Success belongs to those who continue despite the struggle. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not always the most talented. They are often the people who simply refuse to quit. And when you develop that mindset, when discipline becomes your identity, persistence becomes your habit, and resilience becomes your strength, you become something incredibly powerful, a person who cannot be stopped by temporary setbacks, a person who continues moving forward no matter what, a person who never quits. Conclusion: the freedom that comes from discipline. As we reach the end of this audiobook, it is worth remembering one simple truth. The life you want is built by the choices you make every day, not once, not occasionally, every day. Most people spend their lives searching for the secret to success. They search for motivation, inspiration, talent, luck, or the perfect opportunity. They believe that one day something will happen that finally changes everything. But the truth is far simpler. The people who achieve extraordinary results are rarely extraordinary because of talent alone. They are extraordinary because of their habits, their consistency, their discipline. Throughout this audiobook, we have explored the psychology of discipline and the mindset required to build lasting success. We have seen that motivation is temporary while discipline is reliable. We have learned that procrastination, excuses, and comfort zones are often the greatest obstacles standing between us and our potential. Most importantly, we have discovered that discipline is not something you are born with. It is something you build. Every disciplined action sends a message to yourself. Every promise you keep strengthens self-trust. Every difficult task completed strengthens character. Every moment of consistency strengthens identity. This is why discipline is the highest form of self-respect. When you follow through on your commitments, you prove to yourself that your goals matter. You prove that your future matters. You prove that your word matters. And over time, that self-respect becomes confidence. One of the greatest lessons in life is understanding that motivation fades, but systems remain. There will be days when you feel inspired. There will also be days when you feel tired, discouraged, distracted, or overwhelmed. The people who succeed are not those who always feel motivated. They are the people who continue moving forward anyway. They trust their routines, they trust their habits, they trust their systems. Because systems continue working long after excitement disappears. Never underestimate the power of small actions. A single workout may not change your body. A single productive day may not change your career. A single act of discipline may not transform your life. But repeated actions create extraordinary results. Small efforts compound. Small victories compound. Small habits compound. Eventually, what once seemed insignificant becomes life-changing. This is why consistency will always beat intensity. Anyone can work hard for a day. Anyone can become motivated for a week. But long-term success belongs to people who keep showing up, again and again and again. Even when progress feels slow, even when results are invisible, even when quitting seems easier, discipline creates something many people spend their entire lives chasing: freedom. Freedom from procrastination, freedom from excuses, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from being controlled by temporary emotions. The disciplined person is free because they no longer need perfect conditions to take action. They no longer need to feel motivated. They no longer need external validation. They have learned to trust themselves. And that trust becomes a source of strength that cannot easily be taken away. Remember, every day is a new opportunity to strengthen your character. Every day presents a choice. You can choose comfort or you can choose growth. You can choose excuses or you can choose responsibility. You can choose procrastination or you can choose action. You can choose to remain the same or you can choose to become stronger. The decision is always yours. Years from now, your life will reflect the choices you repeatedly made, not the intentions you had, not the goals you wrote down, but the actions you consistently took. So make a decision today. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for perfect timing. Stop waiting until you feel ready. Act. Move forward. Take the first step, then take another. Become the person who follows through. Become the person who keeps promises. Become the person who does what needs to be done regardless of how they feel, because success belongs to those who keep showing up. And the moment discipline becomes part of who you are, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Your future is waiting. Now go earn it.